Tēnā koutou katoa, everyone, and welcome back to Mucky Hope Productions. I'm your host, Mucky Hope, and I'm joined by two awesome lads. I had a bit of a Scottish accent that came out there. Two awesome lads, and I'm joined by the one and only Stags Yero. Stags, how's it going, man?
It's going good. Well, it was going good until you brought out the Scottish accent. But yeah, no, it's been a good day. Real excited to get into some of these episodes, bro. So it's been pretty chaotic the last three, that's for sure. Yeah.
And speaking of chaos, though, we've got none other than one of my personal favorite people of all time. It is the awesome Nathan. Nathan, how's it going, man?
Thanks, Mucky. Yeah, no, it's been going good. I don't think I've done anything chaotic recently. Maybe that fire, but other than that, it was kind of, that was a mistake. That was we do a little bit. We have a little.
You sleepwalk, right?
Yeah. You know, the police can't blame me. They can't find any evidence. So
actually, speaking of fire, the other day at the Century Maze, I went to go heat up some cookies in like a cup because I had this idea of like, you know, if you
I heard about that story.
You put it in a cup and then you heat up microwave, but then you add cold milk, it would actually make like low key a nice dessert. Anyway, so I put it in for like a minute and a half. I come out, I'm doing some other things, and I could smell like the smoky smell and the smoke coming out of the staff room, and somehow the cookies got really badly burnt, and there's a small fire in the paper cup, and so I had to extinguish the fire. Obviously, not let too much smoke out, otherwise, it would have triggered all the fire alarms. But yeah, the smell is still.
I feel like putting paper in the microwave is probably like a good cause for a fire, to be honest.
I mean, I don't know, because I feel like I've put paper plates and paper cups into a microwave before, but it hasn't been that bad. But apparently, it is.
You can do it, but you shouldn't mix it with anything like sugar-based or anything that can get burnt. Because the moment something gets burnt, then it traps onto the paper, and then the paper gets burnt.
True.
And then I started a fire recently.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, like no one can like prove that I'm right, but
you allegedly started a fire recently.
Yeah, you know, like, and I'm the one alleging. No one else can
All right, well, let's quickly talk about this very chaotic season of Survivor. Hamish, like you weren't here last week, just give quick brief thoughts. What is your thoughts so far on the season as a whole?
This season is like, I think the motif or like the umbrella of this season is very unstable alliances. There are a lot of these alliances being formed, you know, like the VBs, the Witches Coven, the Bomb Squad, you know, the Graduates, like whatever, you know, particularly on the Brains Tribe, or the now former Brains Tribe, I suppose I should say. But a lot of these relationships which don't hold, a lot of words that get said, hey, let's do this, and then very quickly the book changes. So I think that it's a very unstable season, which makes for good flipping Survivor. But it's cool to watch. It's cool to watch people do this real erratic and chaotic stuff, you know, such as sending Karen and Laura away from the tribal council for your Miles vote to not work.
Actually, that's something I do want to bring up. Like, you know, normally the openings for episodes really don't matter, but I just loved the fallout from this tribal, how Max was like, turns out I got blindsided by my own plan. Oh, so good.
I think, like, I'd go so far as to say that overarching theme over the past 3 episodes has been a thing for the past 9. Which is this idea of everything's going according to my plan, as no one is agreeing with anybody.
Yeah,
that's true. And it's not just Max,
No, it's not been
it's
Max.
Like so many people.
It's been almost every single
anyone who says things are going to my plan in this season is wrong.
Yeah,
well, I mean, like, wrong.
I mean, something I've noticed that the people who would get screen time off, like your AJs, your Maxes, your Riches, and stuff like that, all playing these huge games where just nothing is it's just so dumb and so stupid, like some stuff they're trying to do. But the people who are playing the best games are like the 5 Brawn who are now on the new Brains tribe, but they're making the best moves because they haven't even got any screen time yet. So we can't even criticize them for anything just yet. But I assume that their time will come. You know, it's kind of like
it'll have to, I suppose.
It's like a virus.
It's weird, man. It seems like everyone in the season, or maybe that's like too broad, but yeah, pretty much everyone in the season who's trying to be a game player has these amazing ideas, and they like almost do it. It's like with what's her face? You know, that chick who was just like, oh, like if you don't vote with me, I'll come after you. What was her name again?
Indy.
Indy, yeah, it's like with that, right? How she like had this great plan and she just did it wrong, and that's what the season is. A lot of people doing this real interesting stuff, and then it's just wrong.
Yeah, well, I guess let's quickly go into the tribe swap. So how I kind of want to do this is I want to sort of tackle it tribe by tribe. So I guess let's start off with the new Brawn tribe because oh my god, like we could almost do like a 2-hour podcast, Nathan, like on each episode, just all regarding to do with the new Brawn tribe. But we have Paulie, Noonan, Ursula, and Kristen from the Brawn tribe. And then we have AJ, Rich, Kaylin. Sorry, I can't read my own handwriting. AJ, Rich, Kaylin, Karen, and Logan, as the former Brains, have gone onto this this new Brain tribe. But something that's very interesting though, we get a perfect 5-5 split. So 5 Brains, 4 Brawn, and then on the other tribe it's 5 Brawn, 4 Brains. Did you like how this tribe swap all turned out, Nathan?
Yeah, I liked the way it turned out. I think in particular it was a little bit of a bit chaotic. I also think, you know, the whole theme of Brains versus Brawn just hasn't really happened. Like I don't think that there's been a good mix of Brain and Brawn, like initially anyway. So I'm not really been like, oh, this is gonna switch up the game because you know these traits are now gonna be kind of mixed in with each tribe. It's like not really. It's chaos and chaos. It's all kind of been it's all kind of been the same. However, I do think the biggest thing that I was rooting against in this merger in particular was just how much it affected minority players. Players who were just about to kind of find their way, kind of find their flow, and then all of a sudden this switch. I think if you're looking at it from that standpoint, yeah, it was a great merge. But personally, from like an overall Survivor thing, it didn't really feel like a cool one. Like, yeah.
Well, Hamish, that's actually a great point that Nathan brings up, right? Like we see Miles, he's on the bottom the entire time, but now he's finally formed the Graduates Alliance. He's in the majority, and then he swaps onto a terrible position on the new Brain Tribe 2.0. Like, would you say it's maybe a bit too early for a swap, or do you reckon they swapped it like
in the luck of the draw's defense? Miles ended up on the bottom again because of his personality. So, you know, I think a tribe swap is always gonna throw a spanner in the works because it obviously doesn't happen in the first few days. By the point that it does happen, there are strong alliances and they are doing strong things. They are trying to make things happen. That's always, anytime there's a twist, there's always when something's happening anyway, right? So, you know, I think the timing made sense. I like that it made me fearful. The players who I have been kind of silently rooting for, I suppose, I feel like we're in okay positions and had cool things going, and then all of a sudden it's like they could be on the back foot, or it's just like, okay, we need to like figure it out again. And so it kind of like spooked me. I was like, oh damn, like the players that I like gonna do well, and it's cool to see them like navigate this, and you know the ones who are coming out successful or alive anyway, you know, still in the game. It's cool to see their I guess their fortitude in a way, you know, and like their ability to be a survivor, I guess, you know. So yeah, I mean it's cool. I like the fact that it's been shocking and a little bit like unnerving for the players that I'm kind of following.
Yeah. Well, Nathan, I guess let's quickly talk about the strategy leading up to the first tribal council of the new Brawn tribe. So we see here that, like, you know, like Rich is kind of on the bottom, he's sort of just going with the flow. But AJ really wants to flip on the original brains with him and to join the Brawn because AJ's all about forming new relationships. However, he wants Rich to cast the vote, but not him. So AJ will stay back, but Rich will, you know, cast the vote. And I just love this quote here from Rich so much, Nathan, which is, you want to come to the party, but you don't want to blow any of the balloons up.
Yeah, I saw some discourse about that as well on some forums too.
Yeah.
Yeah, particularly how good of a line that is. But yeah. I think one of the main things that comes with it is like AJ, I think, was doing his best playing it low. And I think Richie really wanted to play that that loud game. Like he really wanted to take control. And this has been like we've been going on about themes a lot this episode, but there's been a lot of themes about like playing loud, right?
Yeah.
Being proud and taking control, right? But that has been the kind of failure a lot of the time. That has been like this reoccurring thing happens where someone tells someone, "Hey, I want you to do this thing," and you are going to do it because why else would you? Why else would you go against me? And then they give him a little bit of a threat, and then it all goes downhill.
Yeah, well, Hamish, something that was kind of interesting is the whole idea of AJ trying to make Rich flip, but then AJ, he sits and chills back, right? And Rich very smartly catches onto what AJ is trying to do, because then all the blame goes onto Rich for flipping, but not AJ, right? And even though it is kind of his downfall, do you think Rich was in the right to just be like, nah, if we're doing this flip, you're voting with me?
Yeah, I mean, like, AJ is trying to play the game where he's like, I want these people to vote this way. I want these people to vote this way. I have my minions. I'm moving my pawns. They don't know that I'm moving them. Oh, I'm such a manipulator. And that's the thing, man. Like, if I was in an alliance and somebody was like, okay, like, I'm moving these pawns. You vote this. I want this. So this is my plan. Then it's like, okay, cool. You might be calling the shots, and maybe that's threatening to a certain extent. But like, I'm happy to work with you. At least you're transparent with me. You know what I mean? Later down the line, do I want to work with you? Maybe, maybe not, you know? But if I sense that you're using me, already it's like, okay, you're using me for my number, but you're not even willing to be honest with me. I get that it's a game about lying, so I respect it, but it's like, evidently you're not trying to align with me. You are simply trying to use me to get out somebody else. So it's like, yeah, clearly there's no compromise there. I think Rich was kind of right to be like, you know, blow up some balloons, my bro.
Exactly. Speaking of blowing up balloons, we do have a lovely comment here from Brendan, Australian Survivor memes. Oh, hey, tall, dark, and handsome.
Well, hello to you too, Brendan.
I think he's talking about you, Nathan.
Yeah, I was just about to say.
I wonder who you're going to be talking about.
It's just because of my lighting, right, guys? It's not like it's the lighting on my. This is the shading on my thing, right? I just don't have any backlight, so it gives me a little darker. That's the only reason.
Some things I wish I didn't say.
All right. Well, I guess let's quickly, move along a bit, because Hamish, the Brawns on this new Brawn tribe, as in Paulie, Noonan, Ursula, and Kristen, are such a hot mess, right? We see Ursula already trying to play, hey, everyone, like, I'm on the bottom. My name's been written down at the past two tribals. And Noonan's just rolling her eyes. Like, honestly, like, I feel like her eyes are like a tumbleweed for how many times they keeps on, like, rolling every time Ursula speaks. And, I mean, I want to hear your thoughts about this Noonan-Ursula rivalry, because, in theory, I understand the frustration.
Oh, they both annoy me, bro. They're both annoying. They're both babies, bro. Okay, so like, look, I feel the internal eye roll all the time. People do stuff that makes me really flippin' question their intelligence.
Yeah.
But like, okay, let's just say you're in a position where you're gonna be stuck with these people for a while. You need to find, you need to communicate, you need to stand your ground, you need to set boundaries. Like that's what they try to do when they're just like, oh, I want mutual respect. Fine, like let's say you work together, right?
Yeah.
Like you don't want to necessarily have to have those conversations, but you'll have them and find that all right, hey, I'll be civil, blah blah blah, whatever. You're playing Survivor though. In the workplace, you're not voting each other out of the workplace. In Survivor, you're trying to either make these great connections with people, or you're trying to not look like you're going for somebody. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying I would be the best Survivor player. All I'm saying is I would do a certain amount of sucking it up and concealing my feelings and voting you out later. You know what I mean?
Well, Nathan, it's hard because I actually do understand it from Ursula's perspective. Because when you look at it from her angle, Noonan has voted for her twice now, right? And while both times were a split, Nash did have an idol at the first one and played it for himself. But then he also potentially had another one at the second tribal they went to, right? And then on top of this, while Noonan's voted for her twice, when they're all trying to speak at the well, Noonan's speaking on her behalf almost, going, oh, she doesn't want to work with me, she doesn't want to work with me. But it kind of seems like it was the other way around. Like what's your thoughts on this whole Noonan-Ursula rivalry?
From the get-go, Ursula has been getting kicked into the dirt. It is a very kind of common thing, I felt like. In fairness, I think, just like with Miles and a lot of players, is their personality does it to them. It's that strong architectural, I want to be I want to be the top. I want to be the strongest. And then, when that mentality kind of keeps up, you pushing it onto other people who are already pretty strong-willed people, right? And then they start retaliating. So I actually do understand where Ursula is coming from, because I genuinely think she's a genuine person in a game of Survivor, So, but the main issue was the fact that neither wanted to let it up, right? Votes happen against each other. Votes, you have to make games against it. That is just how a game works. Not even in just Survivor. Sometimes you have to kick the ball to another player instead of pass it to the team member that you guys agreed on. Sometimes you have to, bench someone even though they might actually be really good at this job. It's irrational to get mad at these things for this long. Right. I personally think that the issue should have been with Nuna. I think Nuna should have been like, okay, look, I'm sorry. I'm sorry this happened. I was playing the game. I think we should just work together. I'm sorry that I'm sorry that there wasn't that mutual respect, or that you didn't get that mutual respect. I'm willing to build that now. I think that should have been on Noonan, I should say, but that doesn't make. But just both of them were very strong-willed, right?
Yeah, and Hamish, we see something so great. I kind of feel like there's something you would do, almost, where you see all these numbers. Like Asia, he sees that Ursula and Noonan are arguing, they're targeting each other. They don't even really want to work together. And Asia's trying to think, where are his numbers? And he realizes he needs to change plans, otherwise he might even get caught up. And so he goes to Karen and he switches things over to Rich, and they somehow, in a very crazy tribal, form a unanimous vote, except for Ursula, who votes for Noonan, onto Rich and send him home. What did you think of AJ's skills here, just turning the vote completely around?
To be honest, I think that, it's cool that he did it and that he pulled that off. That's cool, I don't think it was. He clearly had a game plan. He was foreseeing moves ahead, and he saw how that worked for him. like, I- yeah, I'm definitely for exploiting weaknesses, and the Brawn tribe, obviously, the original Brawns obviously had like a big crack in them. So, but maybe that's too short sighted, for me to say, oh, like I would have just exploited the weakness between Ursula and Noonan and voted one of them out. Because maybe sticking Brain strong is actually not that strategic after all, and that would only hold for so long. So, I mean, maybe he did create other. I don't know. He's had a weird game. He does some cool things, but then he's like, everybody, I'm holding hostages. Like, so I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't want to give him too much praise.
Well, I mean, obviously we're going to be talking about the hostage stuff, like pretty soon. But Nathan, something I have been very impressed by with AJ is his ability to work in the shadows, right? He's trying to form this plan where Rich is kind of the fallout guy because it's Rich who, swings onto Logan. And then he's just very subtly able to turn things around onto Rich. Almost a very divided like tribe. And someone turned into like a unanimous vote. Right, like it was AJ who technically got the bomb squad together by putting the information into Rich's ear. AJ's obviously part of the Graduates Alliance as well, even though there's more like Zara and Current wanting to flip on the Coven. But what's been your thoughts on AJ so far this whole season?
I disagree in the sense where like he's been keeping more to the shadows. I feel like I'm a broken record. The others are just very loud. I actually think it's I actually think it's just like, hey, it's a bunch of people like screaming about what they want to do, and then AJ being like, "Hey, guys, I have this idea. Maybe we should just do this." And then everybody being like, "Yeah, sure, whatever." Oh, no, and then kind of, and it works quite a lot. But because he's done this, and he does this multiple times. It works in his favor, and it's giving him a lot of like power, or a lot of visions of power. Right, or where he sees himself as such. So like I mean, I guess in gambling, sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. But the times when AJ does play correctly is not necessarily hard to do. Like it's very easy to exploit a lot of emotional vulnerability with people who are constantly fighting with each other. So I think that's where my point is. If a lot more people, I think if one person was just a bit more quiet, if one person was just like, hang on a second, something's wrong, and then like stops conversing with the other people and be like, yeah, wait, no, AJ's up to something, then it's over. It would have been done. But no one did that.
He's just another one of those players, right? How I said, like, there have been a lot of players who they have these real, like, interesting plans, and it's like you watch it unfolding, and you're like, well, like, I've seen this kind of thing in Survivor before. This was a real cool blindside. This is where massive things happened. And you're watching it, and you're like, but I'm going to see this again now in this season of Survivor, and it's a flop. This is like, I don't say this is an insult to the season. I'm really enjoying it. But as far as the moves goes, this has been a season of failed attempts.
Yeah. Well, actually, that's something very interesting that I do want to bring up because a lot of the, I guess, fan community online, like, I don't know if it's just casuals or if it's super fans as well, but not a lot of people are, I guess, like enjoying the season as much. But I mean, I don't know, because it's like, for me personally, while last season Times vs. Rebels was very strategic and very interesting, a lot of people making great blindsides and moves, like it sort of became, I guess, not too predictable, but like you could kind of think, okay, this person's getting a little bit strategic, they might get voted out next episode or the one after. Whereas with this season, Nathan, I truly do not, like, I can't tell you what's going to happen next episode. I can't predict one thing.
Yeah, I for one, like, I guess I'm a casual viewer, and I don't watch that much of it. But this has been a very enjoyable season for me, because maybe this is more about the hardcore fans or just the fans in general, because it doesn't play like a regular season of Survivor. It doesn't work the same, right? It works very differently, and in that belief, it becomes something a little bit more. right? This is the most fun I think I've ever had talking about Survivor. This is the most fun I've ever had having like watching a game. But imagine you are like an enthusiast and you're like watching Survivor to like learn how people do things and like understand dynamics and things like that, and watching characters and how characters grow.
How
like,
not to do a blindside.
Yeah, how not to do a blindside. It's like,
Yeah.
this is clearly the worst season you could possibly watch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or I should say, how to do a blindside. This is the worst season you could possibly watch.
You know, it's a matter of perspective, right? Like, I guess a lot of the super fans are like, "Yo, show me a blindside," and this is not, so far anyway, has not been an incredible season for that, except maybe for the Max blindside, which was pretty goated. But well, not goated, you know, it was cool. It was a shock to me at least. But except for that, like, you know what I've been more impressed by? Not these amazing moves, and this is what I mean. It's a matter of perspective. Like, I think a lot of people are like, "Oh, I wanted to see this real cool play, this strategy. I want to see some like George, you know, kind of action." I'm not as impressed this season by the amazing moves. I'm more impressed by the people who have managed to not get out. For example, Miles. What? Why is he in the game? You know, like, for a while I was just like, "Oh, flipping Miles. Here he goes, runs his mouth. He's on the bottom of the tribe again. Who would have guessed?" You know. But to be honest, like, actually, even though he's playing a bad game in one way, he's actually playing a great game in another way by just like surviving this. You know.
Yeah.
I've been impressed by that kind of play.
Who was the player? Who's the player on the Brawn's tribe that's like the aviation freighter lady? Who was talking to
Kristen, I think.
Kristen? Yeah, Kristen. Yeah. Like, genuinely, very little screen time. I have not seen that many confessionals with her. She has never been on the chopping block once. Like, it has been like.
And she was aligned with Nash. Yet she's not been in the firing line.
She was aligned with Nash. She's not been a huge challenge beast because she's not really gotten that much like involvement in that stuff. You know, she's been quite quiet, but she has been playing a fantastic game. Has never been in the chopping block once. Has always played on the right team. Like, it has been impressive. You know.
Yeah.
Because there's just so much going on. Like, you can't pay attention to that. So I think that's probably what a lot of people are mad about.
Well, I guess just talking about that, let's segue into like the next episode, right, where we do see that Paulie, he's really trying to unite these Brawns. Right now it's 4-on-4. If they just stick together, obviously Paulie hasn't told anyone, but he has got an idol, right? They have a realistic chance at trying to swing things around against the Brains here. But Hamish, you know, Noonan straight away flips on this idea. Like, I think was it Ursula mentions Karen's name to Paulie, because I think at that point Ursula's like, "You know what? Yeah, I'm down for this." What does Noonan do? Straight away goes and tells Karen the whole thing. Did you like this play from Noonan?
No.
Yeah.
No, Noonan.
Yeah.
I think Paulie's a cool player to watch. I think he seems like a cool guy in general, you know? Like, I feel like if this was like
he's just a chill guy.
He's just a chill guy right now. If this was like an adventure movie, you know, he would be one of the main characters that you watch and you're like, I can back this character because they're like, you know, they're like moral code and I don't know, whatever. Like, he seems like a smart, I like him, you know? And then he starts to get this kind of cool stuff going on, like kind of fooling the previous Brains people, and it's like, yeah, bro, like, this is cool. You get yourself in there, and then it's like, wait, hold on a minute, and now he's on the bottom, and just like that.
And bro. I mean, something that we do see is that AJ Nathan, he really does want to work with Noonan and Paulie. Like, he says that pretty much straight away once the tribe swap happens. But I do feel like Noonan has actually doomed the Brawns here, right? Because, you know, she gave away the plan. And I think AJ and Karen, they very smartly figure out there's no way that Ursula could have come up with a plan to try and unite the Brawns and take out Karen. It was most likely Paulie. Yeah.
I'm gonna say this a lot this episode of the recaps. But revenge is a fool's game. Like in getting it, if you fail at getting revenge, you're gonna lose. If you succeed at getting revenge, you're still gonna lose because someone else is gonna exploit that, right? It's especially the case in Survivor. A lot of the successful revenge in Survivor of like someone trying to blind someone and failing, and then that person being like, "I'm coming after you," has never been like, "I'm going to just make sure everybody votes for you next." It's always been, "I'm going to play an idol. I'm going to win the next immunity challenge so I can discuss what's going to happen. Like I'm going to play some kind of game later on. I'm going to start talking and turning alliances against you." But that takes a while, right?
Yeah.
It's revenge is kind of a fool's errand. So Noonan in particular, in order to get that very short-term revenge against Ursula for something pretty petty, pretty minor.
Yeah.
It's it kind of screwed up the entire thing.
It really did. But Hamish, what I find so funny is that Noonan is just so off Ursula when Ursula's only voted for her once, but Noonan's voted for her twice. And has actively been after her. Like, I mean, look, I like Noonan, I really did, but like this week I strongly disagreed with so many moves that Noonan had done. Like, similar with AJ, I guess flipping on the brain so early. It's like you finally have a chance to solidify your numbers as 4 Brawn, and if you take out a brain, you're in the majority 4-3, right? And so at least try to utilize those numbers while you can to at least make the merge where you can link up with your other Brawn alliance members. But like, I kind of feel like Noonan is playing. I mean, to be fair, it was a successful strategy where it's like, as long as it's not me in just one more day, then I'll be okay. Famous quote from Sandra Diaz Twine, who's a 2-time Survivor winner. But I mean, you know, Australian Survivor is a really long game. You never know when merge is going to happen. Like, do you think Noonan made the right move throwing Ursula under the bus here, or do you reckon she should have just stuck with the Brawn?
Nathan made a good point about people kind of exploiting revenge, and you know, like. As a naturally vengeful person myself, like I'll say this, right? Like, if you're like in Survivor, like if you're really out for blood, like vengeful blood, one, you have to be patient. You can't be like, I'm voting them every time, Max. And you also you also have to be the only person who knows you're trying to get revenge. If everyone's just like, oh yeah, they hate them, they got a feud, then like nobody's going to take you seriously. If you're like, oh, I reckon we should vote for them, people are just going to be like, yeah, because you hate them. But if I'm just like, oh, you know what, actually I reckon Nathan is just real, like not the bro, I want to get him out because I don't know, like he didn't like my shirt, I'm going to go to Michael and be like, you know Nathan was throwing your name out there. I'm not gonna, and I'm not gonna show you guys in public that I was angry at Nathan. I'm gonna be your best friend, Nathan. But then I'm gonna go to Michael and be like, "Oi, bro, like, yeah, like he's doing the slice stuff. You know what he was saying?" But if I had been in public, like, "Oh, well, you don't like my shirt. Well, I don't like your shirt," and then I go up to you, Michael, and try to sway you, you're just gonna be like, "Oh yeah, this is just some feud. I'm gonna exploit this."
I mean, I'll be personally on board with that because you know we all know I've got this famous hat that I wear all the time. I love Shimbadi hat and my Chewbacca jumper, and I drink chocolate milk every day. If someone had even touched my hat out there, I would throw them into the fire of tribal council. But legally, I'm not allowed to do that. So
I don't care about your hat.
Yeah, but I would try and get as many people on board. I don't care if it got me voted out. Just be like, this person touched my hat.
That's a pretty good point.
Go home.
I would have expected Max to go after like Kent earlier on in the episodes, as vindictively as he's going after Miles, because he burnt his hat, bro. Like, I mean, a constant theme of mine is that I hate Kent, but like,
I mean, it's almost like that meme, right? Where it's like, if only God would give me a sign, and then a sign saying that Kent burnt his hat. But then he's like, no, if only God taught me how to read. Like, oh God. But we do see here that Well, I was going to say, like in the immunity challenge, which we will talk about the challenges towards the end of this podcast, because I thought the challenges were bloody phenomenal. These 3 episodes, but AJ is trying to subtly tell Ben and Jesse to throw the challenge to save their own members, but obviously they don't really listen to it. They don't take it that seriously, and so brains are going straight back to tribal council. And Hamish, this is where AJ comes up with his mad dog plan, where he wants to take hostages. And he's going to tell the Brawn tribe, you better start throwing these challenges, otherwise we're going to start voting these people out. And he specifically wants to keep Noonan and Paulie, because they're the ones who's going to like scream the most, apparently. Like, tell me, what's your thoughts on Mad Dog AJ's plan here?
Bro. As somebody who like tends to explain things in metaphors, and I'm never very specific with what I mean, you know, I'm always giving like, oh, this is like this, you know, like I'm all for that. But like when people start getting too fantastical with Survivor, they're like, oh, I'm the king and these are my soldiers, or like, I'm holding you hostage, this is my metaphorical gun. It's like, bro, like I, you know, respect to George, but like it annoys me enough when he does it. It's like, no, bro, you're not the king. Shut up. You're just playing Survivor. So when he's just like, I've got you guys locked in this room. I've got you at gunpoint. It's like, no, you don't, bro. You're just telling people to throw.
And then in the actual episode, I think he's like, guys, I don't actually have a gun. It's like, yeah, we know you don't have a gun.
Yeah. Oh, thanks for clarifying that, my bro.
Yeah. No, I mean, like, see, here's the thing. When George did it in Heroes versus Villains, right? It's like he saw that Liz was on the bottom. George had just been taken out with Shawnee's idol around his neck. And it's like, okay, well, we're going to start throwing the challenges because you're not working with our team, right? And so he had the hostages to vote out and stuff. Whereas with AJ, I'm a little confused by his plan because obviously he's close with Miles. Zara is part of the Graduates Alliance as well. Like, it makes sense if he knows that Max and Laura are on the chopping block, but obviously you can never know for sure what's going to happen. So by threatening to throw the challenge to vote out the Brawn, it's just going to make the Brawn vote off the brains.
Well, yeah, that's true. To be honest, like, that's so true what you just said, but that's the bit that I'm less like annoyed about. The bit that I'm annoyed about is just like the rhetoric. It's just cringe. Like that's what annoys me, bro. It's just the wording. It's like, shut up. But no, you're right. You're right. He's like, they can't vote us out. They're gonna vote us out on their tribe.
Yeah. It's almost like the despicable meme, Nathan, where it's like Screw. He's like, okay, so I create these hostages. They throw the challenge. So they brush all the brains out. Wait, that's right. the other brains.
His kind of whole plan falls apart the moment they all think, hey, that hostage thing was pretty messed up, hey? Maybe we should all just team up and get him out. Like, has he been winning any challenges? Has he been a bit of a challenge beast? No. Has he, like, like, has he been a bit more of a threat recently? Yes. Does he have an idol? Probably not. Well, then what are we waiting for, boys? Like,
actually, AJ does have an idol.
Oh, does he?
He does have an idol, yes.
Okay, gotcha. Okay. Well, in that case, does anybody know?
No.
Okay. Does he have an idol? Probably not. Well, then, what are we waiting for, boys? Like...
True. Yeah, well, I guess something that's like heading into Tribal Council, it really is set up Ursula versus Noonan, but Hamish, I was a little bit worried here because Karen was wanting to get Paulie out because it's very clear that Paulie's actually the mastermind of everything. And I mean, while at this like earlier, I was pretty worried for Karen because what Paulie was saying was making sense. Also, just Queen Karen in general. But I'm also like really stressed out for Paulie. Like it would suck if like the one good Brawn player that's here trying to make things work is the one to go home. Were you pretty stressed out as well?
I was for a moment. Obviously, he has his idol, but yeah, like I was worrying for a sec. But once the others were being done, then I was like, okay, cool, too easy. I'm not worried anymore about the bro. And this is kind of my prediction. I think he's going to manage to just scrape through to merge.
Yeah.
You know, like maybe if there was another round, maybe he'd be on the chopping block and then he'd just use his idol. I think he's going to get to merge without using his idol, and then he'll be reunited with stronger connections. He won't need to use his idol for a bit longer because he has numbers again. As they dwindle, then I think he's going to use his idol quite late in the game. I think Paulie's going far, bro.
I think so too. And like, you know, I've said it since the first podcast where like while Paulie didn't get a lot of screen time in the first 3 episodes, you could see him, Nathan, having conversations with everyone. He's in the he's in all the core chats, you know what I mean? Because often with Survivor, people look at like Edgic and like, you know, how many confessionals you're getting and stuff like that, and they'll determine whether or not you're a candidate to win or not. But something that I've personally found is you don't need confessionals to get screen time, right? You can clearly understand a player's position in a tribe just based on the conversations they're having. Like, are you like a massive fan of Paulie?
Well, I mean, when we first started this, I mean, like he was my winner pick, and he still currently is my winner pick. I think the main point going forward, I think as well. I just on a side note, I thought it was wild that during that immunity challenge, he was like hanging on one bar.
Yeah.
And it was like, and he pushed to the bitter end to make sure that these guys could win. And then the first name that gets thrown out is like, man, Paulie kind of is the worst.
Yeah.
And it's like, dude, he was. I genuinely like him. I think that he's going to go far in this game. I think that he's been playing extremely smart, as well. Also, just from like the confessional side of things, like he's had a few confessionals, but the thing that kind of like maybe gave a little bit more energy was was that whole thing in episode 6 or 5 where he was talking about his dad and him getting bullied in school. Like that definitely gave a little bit more emphasis on like, okay, there is a little bit more going on, you know, like he's probably going to go a little bit further after that, because they wouldn't just show that up, even though it was a really emotional moment. It was
that'd be pretty crack up, eh? It's just like, you know, I was bullied in school. My dad like supports me. 7th person voted out of Australian Survivor.
Actually,
and then like one of the players is like, say hi to your dad for me.
Oh my gosh. Oh my god.
The most vindictive players on the planet. That wouldn't surprise me.
Well, actually, it's funny to say that because in the original Brains versus Brawn, there was a contestant who already had quite a bit of screen time, but she got a emotional like from home package, right? Where it tells about her life. Like, who was it? I think her name was Rachel. She works for like a charity that deals with like, you know, kids in school getting like bullied and stuff like that. And then she was voted out that episode.
Oh wow!
it was like midway into like the swap as well, which is kind of funny. It's like, why are you getting an intro package here? Oh, wait a minute. That's because I want us to feel sad when you get voted out. And so, yeah, it was like a little bit obvious. But Hamish,
we survived 3 more episodes. Maybe, just maybe, that this won't be the case.
Well, Hamish, like, obviously, you know, we all love Paulie here on this podcast, but I do think that the Brains did make a bad move, because I reckon they could have heavily utilized on the Ursula Noonan rivalry just a little bit longer. Maybe you take out a Kristen here in the spot, even though AJ did have that chat with Kristen at the start of the episode where they seem to be on the same page. But I do think you sort of want to take out like a Paulie who seems to be a mediator, someone who's trying to like really bring the Brawn together.
Somebody who's a little more level-headed.
Yeah, or maybe even a Kristen as just like a side piece, right? But try to keep that rivalry in for as long as you can.
I mean, like, you know how like in traders, right, there are people that play the strat of like trying to cop a few votes but not enough to really be suspected, but since they cop a few, it's also like the traders don't want to vote them, don't want to murder them.
Yeah,
I get that thought.
Sorry to interrupt. Queen Julia's strategy, by the way, absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. And so like I feel like that there's a similar thing with Survivor where it's like if you're always second best option to be voted out, but you're always second best option to be voted out. You know what I mean? It's like I feel like that's also a thing. Like people aren't going to necessarily vote you out because they're just like, oh, like, you know, they're on the bottom anyway. Like, that's going to happen. Like, we know they're an easy vote. So we can use them as a number now because they're on the bottom, and they'll work with us to vote out this person. But that's their game, or maybe it's not. But like that kind of is a game for a lot of people. You think about, for example, like George's first season, right? Like how he rode the bottom, like you know what I mean? It's like the fact that Miles is still here. What if Miles gets to the end because people keep seeing him as unthreatening because they're like, oh, you know, he could be an easy vote, but that's fine. Like we'll get to him. You know what I mean? So I feel like if I had seen somebody be kind of on the bottom, not necessarily copping all the heat, but kind of on the bottom for a while, but managing to somehow get through, I would see that as threatening. I would see that as this person either really knows how to survive the bottom, which is a threat, or they're playing this angle where it's like they're always trying to seem non-threatening so that people don't vote them out, you know? So in a way, like people who seem like they're playing a bad game, you might not really want to vote them out because they're not a threat. But nobody that's this far into the game has played a bad game. Well, you know what I mean? Like you get to a certain point, like maybe some dumb moves, but like you have to have played well enough to get this far in. So if you have been on the bottom the whole time, you aren't as bad as it looks. You know what I mean? Well, so I would go for the bottom players at this point.
Well, it's interesting you bring that up, right? Because you do have a player like Miles who's like slowly just skating through the bottom. He cops a few votes here and there and stuff. But there are some other players, for example, like Simon, for example, from Heroes vs. Villains. He was a massive player, but he was always on the bottom, right? You know, George didn't quite have the numbers to take him out. But even during the swap phase, where he was just always on the bottom, but just somehow found a way to survive with this, that was like through his own strategy or like social game. But then you also have players like Andy, for example, who you know, like I love Andy as a character, but he had no social power on the Champions tribe during the swap, but somehow he just skated by to merge, right? So it's interesting. So they're like, I'd say they're two different. Oh, I guess even Dirty Harry as well, like in the same season, right? I guess you got like your players who are like very carefully skating by, but then you also got your loud, bombastic players who either like win out by idols or, you know, just somehow barely find a way. There's many different ways to play.
Yeah, I guess that's the thing with like if you're like the quiet player who's playing in the shadows at this point in the game, you're not really that in the shadows, right? Like people have seen you make moves by this point. Like you say that AJ's in the shadows, you know, and that is his angle, right? Like how he's trying to use people and manipulate to make them think that they came up with the idea. But at this point in the game, everyone knows that's AJ's tactic, right?
Yeah,
because it's far enough into the game that if you're the quiet player that's doing stuff. So I feel like the true quiet players are the ones who are riding the bottom. And those are the people you actually have to be worried about.
Yeah. And Nathan, you know, obviously we're going to talk about this really soon, but AJ, even at Tribal, announces the hostage plan. And he's like, the Brawn that's going to be kicked here today are going to be my hostages. Then they're going to squeal to the Brawn tribe. Like, did you like that AJ made this a whole tribe thing?
No. Well, I mean,
did you like that AJ's a cringe lord?
Yeah. I mean, that's basically what the question is, and the answer is I hate secondhand embarrassment. I've hated it since I was young. You know, I don't like watching cringy moments unless I'm watching someone get their comeuppance. AJ's not going to get his comeuppance for a while now because there's a lot of incentive for his team to win, and there's not a lot of there's a lot of incentive for the other team to lose. So the answer is no. I don't necessarily know if I like it. I will find it funny, because the whole idea of his is basically like, if this Brawn alliance, like taking this Brawn alliance to merge is what will make this idea work, right?
Yeah.
But the moment other people just start talking with each other, the moment someone's just like, hey guys, maybe we should like just like team up, maybe this whole like Brain and Brawn thing is going to be the end of us. The moment that happens, it all goes out the window. There's no hostage.
Yeah.
And so far it's just Stockholm syndrome. Like,
Yeah. Well, that's a great point you did bring up there, Nathan, because we do see, even at the start of the next episode, that Logan is talking to Kristen, and it's like, I really hated that he did all that. And so there's like seeds being planted, like even Karen at both times is like, we are not a part of this. This is all AJ.
yeah, he doesn't speak
Right?
for us. Like, I think they said that to the other
Yeah.
tribe, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like they're slowly like planting seeds of like, this is all AJ, like sort of keep your eyes out for AJ. You get what I mean? So I feel like the seeds have already been planted for a flip on AJ or something. But you know, before we go too far down the line, Ursula does get voted out here. But what was surprising to me though, Hamish, was that Kristen actually voted for Noonan as well.
Yeah, I mean, bro, that's a dysfunctional, chaotic, fractured group. Like, to an extent, it's almost. It's not that it was hard to follow, but it's kind of hard to keep up with the changing and the drama between them.
Yeah, and yeah, I guess any final comments about the Brain Tribe before we do move on to the Brawn Tribe?
No.
How about you, Hamish? Any final words on the Brain Tribe?
I feel like there are certain players who I want to like because, like, we haven't seen a whole lot of wild, theatrical, successful moves, right? We've seen a lot of attempts, like I say. And so every time there's an attempt at one, it's like I want to get on board with it. I'm like, heck, this could be cool. And so the person doing it, I want to like them, such as AJ. You know, I want to think like yo, like, I can back AJ. To be honest, with all due respect, AJ, if you watch this, well done for playing such a good game so far. I feel like in the context of this season, he kind of annoys me. I feel like I don't actually like him as a player that much. So, like, I'm kind of like, it's like what you said before. I'm getting Stockholm Syndrome. I'm like, well, if he's the one trying to make the plays, I guess I'm stuck with him. He's the one I have to like. So I feel like I'm trying to force myself to like particular players because, like, who else can I like?
Yeah, and when I sort of talked about earlier about how he's playing from the shadows, it was about how he was like whispering to Rich about how the girls were going to come after you, which makes him create the bomb squad. Which, by the way, how funny was it when, you know, the swap happens, Rich sees Ellie's guys like, yeah, bomb squad, and Matt's just like, no. It wasn't the bomb squad.
That was brilliant.
Yeah, it was so funny.
It was funny when Karen the whole game has been trying to get rid of Rich, and then she's like, well, if I need to work with him as a number, I will.
On the one vote, he was voted out.
Yeah.
It was so funny when AJ's just like, now I have a new idea. What about Rich? She's just like, yep. Yeah. Let's move on.
What a great plan.
Yeah, it was so great. But like I do agree with you, Hamish, where it's like with AJ, like now he's playing way louder and it's making his voice like really, really heard to everyone. It's like even I'm kind of there going like, mate, like what's the end goal here? You know what I mean? Because for me personally, he's a perfect merge target now. Because he's obviously pissed off the Brawn. He's pissed off his old
Everybody
allies.
knows how he plays now.
Yeah, exactly. And reputation is a really hard thing to shake. There's only been one player that I know that's been able to survive with a really bad reputation, and that is George. But I feel like if we try to replicate a game like George, only George can do George. No one can, no one can replicate
If
him,
anyone's going to do George, it's not AJ.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys know the old saying, like, the king is dead, long live the king. It's the idea that, like, no matter who's on the throne, they're going to die. Like, even if, like, you put yourself on that pedestal, you're going to be the first target, right? And this is why a lot of people have been wanting to stay quiet, because it's actually a good idea, you know?
Yeah.
Putting yourself on a pedestal, you should put yourself on a pedestal near the end, you know, not this close, not especially when saying things that will put you at risk, right?
Yeah.
And making bets on things that are easily faltered.
Yeah.
You know, it's a very similar thing.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's quickly move on to the Brawn tribe. So on the Brawn tribe, we have pretty much everyone on the Brawn that did not receive any screen time. There's Ben, PD, Morgan, Kate, and Jesse. And from the original Brain tribes, we have Max, Laura, Zara, and Miles. And something that I did find very interesting is that, if we link back, because, Maxie does unfortunately get taken out here. But I was sort of thinking, why did they go for Max out of everyone? And Hamish, something that I did find very interesting rewatching this episode 7, was that Miles starts throwing Max under the bus straight away. Like he's talked about how Max is a very chaotic player, he misplayed his own advantage and stuff like that, and he's just really dangerous overall. And while it may not have seemed like anything at the time, because Miles is just stretch chatting 24/7 anyways. Do you reckon that potentially played a big part in why they chose Max out of the 4 people?
That's a really interesting point, which I hadn't considered. Because obviously the edit is a lot of just Zara being oh, hey, can you tone down the stretch chatting and stuff?
Yeah.
So you can see him kind of being on the bottom, and people just yeah, we could go with Miles, you know what I mean? And I mean, they obviously wanted to before he had an idol, so it wasn't necessarily a good play, but I guess it accidentally did good for him when he did get an idol. They're just well, he did tell us this one thing when he was blowing up his own game. He did tell us that Max is chaotic, and he failed all this stuff. Do we really want to work with him? So in a way, yeah, it was a double-edged blade, those stretch chats. And it kind of did work for him in a way.
But something that feels so great though, Nathan, is that while Miles is too busy throwing Max under the bus, Max ends up finding an idol who he calls Jezebel.
Which is wild for a primary school teacher, by the way. Absolutely insane.
Yeah.
Got away with it on national TV.
No, I mean, to be perfectly honest, I love Max so much. He's been such a great energy and presence to the whole show. To me, he reminded me of Luke from season 2, almost, Hamish, where Luke was just making some massive swings, which didn't quite pull off at first. Trying to make a rock draw on the first vote, and then trying to save Mark. But however, I respect a player who's always going to swing big, right? You might as well go home, try and swing big, than not play at all, right? But I do think he made a lot of missteps, and I think burning everyone's trust with the advantage where Ali got sent home was the biggest one, where everyone just lost trust in him in that moment.
Yeah, I mean, I see why you would like him. You also would go home trying to swing big, but
on the first
at
one,
a non-moving target.
Yeah.
No,
It's almost,
you would just go home is the point.
yeah.
No,
it's like that joke, Nathan, from Star Wars: The Clone Wars, where the droids are talking, and it's wow, it sure is a lot more fun without shooting back. I still can't seem to hit anything.
Good thing these bugs can't aim.
Sorry about that, Hamish. Continue.
Yeah, man, like I said before, as a naturally vengeful person, I found his campaign for Miles very funny to watch. I thought it was crack up. I wanted, even though I originally was yo, Miles, I reckon could be a winner pick, before we started seeing the season. And he may be still, but I was I kind of want to see Miles go, not because I don't like him, but because I think this feud is crack up. You know what I mean? I want him to succeed. I back the bro.
Yeah.
But he's just he just doesn't think, bro. It's wow, you have this opportunity to achieve this thing, which puts you in a better position so that you can finally take out your player. But it's every single time, people will come up to him, and they'll be here's the strategy. This makes so much sense. This is logical. And he's yeah, but I'm going to vote for Miles. Bro,
oh, gosh.
Yeah, I think he did kind of annoy me, but in the end, with that, as funny as the whole saga was, and it's crazy that he had this island. He's like, "I'm so powerful." Goes home same episode, right? But yeah, the whole thing with the advantage he had, bro. That was like, I don't know what it's like to be
Could
on
not
the
make that up
island.
if you tried.
I'm not watching, I wouldn't be watching the edit as I'm playing, but I like to think that was a pretty easy advantage to play, and he played it pretty flippin' poorly.
Yeah,
So
he really did.
I don't know.
But
Bro deserved what happened.
But I guess just before we go into like how Max went home, we do have the immunity challenge where AJ does announce that. All right, I've got 3 hostages here, guys. So you better start throwing the challenge. Which immediately all the brains are like, bro, why? Like, do you want us to go home? And as they're doing the challenge, like I think both Ben and Jesse are talking. They're like, yeah, but we're gonna throw. Like, did you like this from the Brawn, Nathan, that they're throwing the challenge?
Not really. Specifically because it's kind of hypocritical. They went up against Nash, being like, you threw a challenge. You're trying to throw a challenge, and this is a team effort, and then they proceed to do the exact same thing, which is pretty funny. But
I do think that there is a massive difference though, where Nash apparently threw the very first challenge.
I called it, bro.
Yeah.
I called it.
You actually did. You actually did. But I was like, no, there's no way.
He seemingly tried to throw a lot more than that. But the main thing with this one in particular is it's always better, like, to remove any risk of going home, I think. It's always better to play the game and remove any risk of going home than taking on the chance that you can go home anyway, right?
Yeah.
So losing a challenge is basically like, even if it's this is going to be a meme that you get, even if there's a 1% chance of you going home, you gotta act with absolute certainty that you just don't do it, right? And it's it basically is that way, I think, because throwing the challenge, even if like Pete or otherwise, what very low chance of going home. Survivor's a very wacky game. Anything can happen, especially in this season. Like, you are throwing that 100% chance away of surviving, and I don't think that's a smart move. I rarely think that that's a smart move.
But Hamish, something that I loved so much about this challenge, which we'll definitely talk about the other 2 challenges, because I thought all 3 challenges this week were phenomenal. But like, you could think, it's just like a ordinary like puzzle, but no, the puzzle reads, in one of the sandbags there is an idol. And something that I found so interesting is that obviously the new brains see Brawn's one, so they don't even bother finishing it. I think it was like Laura, Jesse, and Ben all race back to try and find the idol, whereas with the new Brawn, they're like, you know what, no, let's try to win this challenge as a team. And so when they're doing like the ball shots, they're like, okay, if you get it, you run back and grab the idol, but otherwise just keep on going. But the Brain Tribe, sorry, not the Brain Tribe. Wait, no, they are the Brain Tribe, but the Brain Tribe, they can't find the idol. And then Miles is trying to be like, come on, guys, do the challenge. And how good was it when Miles ran in and just grabbed the idol straight away?
It's been such a funny, like, to be honest, bro, like, this season almost, I know it's not, like, I say this very like sarcastically, but it's almost like it's scripted, bro, like it like, because of how silly it is. It's like it's like, this is such a silly season. It's just funny to watch,
Miles being like, everyone being like, oh, hey, did you get the idol? And he's like, yeah, who cares? Let's keep going. Like, is so funny to me.
It's just a meme season, bro. I mean, I'm here for it,
Yeah.
This is anti-Survivor. This is like the anti. This is like
anti-Survivor. Yeah, but while it was just such a great moment for Miles to find the idol, I will admit I was very frustrated. I mean, Kristen found the idol for Brains, and Noonan sees it, and it's like, this is someone who you don't have a rivalry with, right? You know, you had one with Ursula. Yes, Kristen wrote your name down last tribal, but it's okay. You know, there's 3 of you. You're in a minority 3 against 4. Just keep it quiet. And then Nina goes, Kristen found the idol. She's got it. She's got it. Everyone, Kristen found it. Come on. Like, Hamish, I almost like broke my new TV when I saw this happen.
Have you ever been in a position where you get like somewhat good at like a competitive video game, and you're used to playing with people at your like level or rating or whatever, and then like you play on a different account and you're playing with a bunch of very like less experienced people, and it's so chaotic to watch them work. I feel like watching this season is watching the less experienced people at something that you kind of understand, and they're just having fun, bro. This is a fun season.
Yeah, it really is. Like, it's so much fun, and just it's just so much chaos everywhere.
Yeah.
But we do see here that the Brawn ends up winning immunity. Oh my god, what a surprise. It's not like the brains are throwing it or anything.
This boat is really heavy, eh? It's like,
Yeah,
it's like we have to do this
yeah,
for the team. I'm like, guys, it's getting stuck in the sand. Maybe we should lift it from the front where it's getting stuck. Nah, let's just keep pushing it in, eh?
Oh, it's so funny. But I mean, it was very obvious that, you know, they were throwing the challenge. And I felt really bad for Zara and Kate, because I feel like it must have been so obvious for them. But then also how frustrated it must have been for Zara. I mean, I don't know what exactly the rules were, but I assume that she wasn't allowed to race out for the idol since she's not participating in the challenge, right?
Yeah.
Point.
Yeah.
I assume so.
Yeah, how frustrating it would have been to like see that you've got a lot of Brawn all down there searching for an idol, clearly throwing it, and you can't do anything. You just have to sit there and just hope that, I don't know, a meteor shower happens.
It's been such a season of like everybody knowing everything. It's like everyone knows Nash's idol, everyone knows Miles. You know what I mean? It's like these things which are meant to be secret. It's just on public display. It's strange.
Yeah, it's really strange. And you know, we head back to the new Brain camp. I get so mixed up with brains and Brawns now. They're the brains and Brawns everywhere. But we see that the Brawn, they make a plan immediately to just put all the votes onto Max, but they'll keep like playing up like, oh, we might be voting for Miles, or we might be voting for Zara. Like, Hamish, do you think out of the 4 people, going for Max was the right move in the end?
I can see why they did it. I think for them that was good. You know, Max obviously wanted to. I mean, okay, I could see how stringing Max along could be good. Max was super like, yes, I've got this new friendship, which they obviously burnt straight away. So he believes it. You know, they actually could have used Max as a number to vote out the rest of them and then picked him off. The only issue is that, you know, Max, as they know, is chaotic. You know, can they trust him to do exactly as they're hoping he will for that long?
Yeah.
You know, how do they know he's not going to do some weird flipping thing? And you know what I mean? So I guess it was kind of like there was the possibility, oh, we could use him. We could string him along a bit, but it's also like the risk involved. Is it worth the reward? Like, is it worth risking us going home because we don't know what this chaotic monkey is going to do? Like, probably better to just send him home. I see why they sent him home for sure.
Yeah. Well, Nathan, I feel like it was definitely a very smart play from the Brawns as well, because while Max is trying to pitch to them, hey, let me join you, you know, we can do like 3-on-3. You don't know if he's just saying that, right? To try 4-3-2, one of the, you know, the Brawns out. But also, Max is the least likely person Miles would play as idol for.
Yeah, I think that was probably the smartest. Like, genuinely, if you look at the Max vote, if you look at the blind side, it was probably the smartest move they could have made as a try, because you can't trust a new guy coming in saying that you want to work. B, he was like, the edit may have fooled it, like hyped it up a little bit, but honestly, I do think him saying, you know, I want to be a part of this, and I want, as a deal of me like giving you this information. I want to be a part of everything from now on. Like
Mm.
it created that air of desperation. Like
Yeah.
no one really knew that he had an idol. You know, he
Yeah.
never told anyone. He never even gave the impression that he had one. He was not airing confidence. The only thing he was, while we're on the subject, I wanna like this whole theme of bullying between both of the tribes to every single person has been a reoccurring thing recently. Miles in particular has gotten it pretty bad. But what's funny to me is I can't wait for Max to like go on Instagram and be like, "Hey guys, I just gave a lesson on bullying to my primary school class." And how bad is it? And then for Miles to like the post, like,
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess just talking about that, there have been a lot of people who have felt offended for Miles, sort of on his behalf, have been posting online just how like horrible it is, like and stuff. But Miles has actively posted that the whole Jungle Rat nickname. Max actually asked him that before he started using it.
yeah,
Like, hey, can I use this like nickname on you, stuff like that. Max, he seems like a nice guy. You get what I mean? I just think he just let the rivalry play into his head.
yeah. I personally think
yeah.
it wasn't as bad as it was supposed to be on screen. Like,
Yeah.
like that's fair. But the fact of the matter is, he was very jumpy. He was actively going after one guy. I do think, like what you said is true. Miles shared a lot of information, whether or not it was on purpose or whether or not he was just like talking, is a thing. But like, there was a lot of good information to basically just go after Max. I think the edit tried to do a good thing of being like, oh, maybe Zara is a good option. Maybe tricking Miles into thinking to not use his idol was a good option. But honestly, like Max was the ideal go-to from the very beginning. You know, I doubt that there would have been anybody else.
Yeah. Well, Hamish, we do see here that the brain, so try really hard to stick together, but something that is going for them is that Miles does have an idol, which made me do like it made me kind of think, should Paulie have revealed his idol to Ursula, Noonan, and Kristen to be like, hey, look, I've got this idol, let's do something with it to gain power? Because that is a good bargaining tool to try and rally people together. But as we clearly see with Miles here, even having this idol isn't even enough to keep them together, right?
Yeah, I mean, like, okay, so he's obviously not like, okay, Ursula and Noonan. Let's just say that's an alliance he has, right? He's not going to see an Ursula and Noonan alliance through to the end of the game. Like this is obviously a just for now because they're in a situation kind of vibe, right? So, like, how much he doesn't want to use all of his guns, such as his idol, on this alliance. And at the end of the day, if he doesn't go home because of he uses his idol now in some big blindside, or he just votes correctly now and doesn't put himself out there. Either way, he survives another day. And like you were saying before, like the other Survivor player said, like it's like kind of just like getting through this day to the next day. As long as he's here the next day, it doesn't really matter. You know, he's still, because this alliance, if this alliance was really important, this Ursula Noonan one, if it wasn't as fractured, yeah, maybe they could do a big blindside with the idol.
Yeah.
You know, but there's no point in using it for this. Like, he might as well let those two let them cannibalize each other, right? Just see what happens. He cannot go home as long as he just doesn't play like a dummy. You know, play with the majority or whatever, just get through. And then once he is in a position, either way, he has to use the idol, or where he can find himself in a majority or an alliance he does want to work with, now he should be thinking about using it. But until that's the case, I reckon, I think he played, you know, there were a few times his game kind of blew up, like with the whole like Noonan, you know, revealing the plan kind of stuff. But I reckon he's playing really well, and I'm really happy for him that he still has the idol.
Yeah. Well, for Nathan, with Miles here, he tries to like, okay, everyone, we're all going to stick together, but Max is just so clearly not in on the plan. And Max, he does try to bring Laura with him onto this potential 3-3 split. And this is where I started getting really worried for Miles, because then Laura goes and tells Zara hey, Max is not with us, it's a waste of a vote anyways because it's going to be 3-3. Why don't we vote for Miles and just get him to play the idol for Zara? Did you think that this was a good play here by Laura?
Honestly, I think Miles would have just played the idol on himself regardless, right?
Yeah.
I think he saw himself being at the bottom. I think he saw that he has been burnt multiple times. The only other person that could possibly be at the bottom is Max, who has been actively advocating for this man's downfall from episode 3. So, like, it's been, like, I honestly, like, obviously, like, they didn't go into a confessional. Miles didn't go into a confessional and say, I don't trust any of these people. Or Miles never really made any signature that he would play the idol on anybody but himself. But it seemed obvious to me that he would play the idol on himself, right?
Yeah.
Like it was basically like he's been burnt so many times. It would be and he's not necessarily stupid, right? I think he's a bit naive, where he's like, like I can just get along with people if I just talk, which is not how it works. But the idea that he was like that he would sacrifice one of the most game-changing items in the game that can literally nullify and basically change the outcome of a vote on another person just because they say that, don't worry, you're on the bottom, but we'll make sure that you're not, is a bit weird. So I genuinely think he was going to play that idol regardless on himself. It was going to happen.
And unfortunately, we do see here that Max is taken out in a 4-1 vote. It is kind of funny that there's definitely a world out there, Hamish, where Max also plays his own idol on himself, and Kate is just randomly voted out with just one vote.
Well, I mean, the edit wouldn't have been what it was if this alternate reality, this different dimension where Max does play his idol.
Who voted for Kate again?
If the edit was the same
Miles.
edit until like, oh yeah, I guess Kate goes. Yeah.
Can you imagine if that happened? And he just turns to Kate and he's just like, he makes the PogChamp face, like.
I mean, he
was
really
doing that
was,
anyway, but like he was. But imagine if he just did that to Kate, like on the way out.
It was so funny because I think like the third vote came out for Miles, and he's like, "Oh my gosh, I copped their 5 votes. We're all good." And then it's just like all the votes for Max. He's just like, "What? Like where did this come from?"
Nah.
I feel so bad for Miles because he's just so firmly on the bottom. And while I feel like a lot of it is to do with him because he's constantly like strat chatting 24/7, I do think as well, like, I reckon if Max was on board with this plan and he also maybe was like, hey, I've got an idol, they have a 50% chance of playing their idols correctly to send like a Brawn member home, right? And then at least it's 4 against 4, right? But I don't know.
I think Miles is a bit of a yapper, a professional one. But the main issue I think is there was a another player in David vs Goliath who kind of worked similarly to Miles.
Christian?
And that was that was Christian. In the sense, but like the difference between them was quite obvious. Christian really tried to help out, wherever he possibly could. He was actively trying to build the base up. He was not just talking strategy. He was not just playing quiet. He was actually talking. He was actually building the base up. He was actively trying to like work towards fixing things. Miles has contributed a lot to challenges, right? Miles, in fact, was the crux of one particular challenge.
He was the only one really competing in the last challenge.
Yeah, exactly. Miles. So he's got that down pat. Miles is not necessarily against working on the island, working on the shelter and doing that kind of work as well, right? But the difference is he just talks a bit too much in a group that's already really loud. If he just was a little bit more silent, and I think the reason I relate to him so much is because I probably would have done the same thing. just to try. And
I
make
was just
friends.
thinking that actually as you were saying that.
I've been talking a lot recently as well, yeah. But the idea is like if he had just kept quiet, if he had just helped out, and he just did things, I think he would be in a much better position.
Yeah.
That can be said for anyone, though, I guess. If they just did good and didn't yap too much.
Yeah, but the difference in this season in particular is not necessarily that they don't yap as much, is that they're actively going against each other as well. They're actively fighting each other too. Like, I think that's
it's
the
a very
biggest
feudal
difference.
season.
Yeah, it would be a lot more different. I think, going forward.
Well, just one last quick thing before we do move on to our, the boot order prediction we made, and we say goodbye to the players who got eliminated. These challenges so far this whole season, Hamish, have been phenomenal, especially these past three. Like there was the one where you had to like throw like the disc up using a pole. That looked genuinely so hard, and it was so
close. Cool that
close.
Rich was like he was figuring out like let's get low and stuff like. It's I guess like you get a lot of repeating challenges and Survivor, and that's cool. Like you kind of I guess you have ones that and it's like this challenge, and but it's cool to see some creativity, and not just like different, but like good different. Something creative. I mean I really enjoyed the one where they were throwing the things at the coconuts to pull out those pigs because it was real cool to see how long Paulie held on. I really wanted him to win that, bro. Like just because of his effort.
It was so funny as well at one point where he's got his arms like stretched out like this, and he was kind of doing like the Jesus pose almost. It's like he is the holy savior for the for the new Brawn tribe. But I loved that challenge as well because AJ even brought an element of strategy to it, where it's like target the numbers where they're like standing on. Like the pigs are standing on stuff, because then they have to like really hang on like with their arms, and that's how a lot of them is going to start, dropping out eventually as well, especially some of the bigger guys as well. But and especially this last one as well, with the whole like these are idle in the sandbags as well, and so it's the whole thing of do go and grab the idol or do like stay and finish the challenge, right? Like I love those moments.
So much chaos.
It's just so chaotic. But speaking of chaotic, let's quickly check out our amazing boot order prediction we made here, guys. So, unfortunately, the first player eliminated from this episode is poor Rich. Nathan, what's your thoughts on Rich?
Just generally?
Yeah, just in general.
I mean, like, whether or not he's a good player doesn't really apply in this context. But I personally, in my eyes, I didn't like the game he was playing. I think he could have been a little bit more subtle. I actually think he was pretty charismatic. I actually think because he created a lot of names, the VBs, the Bomb Squad, like he did a lot of that stuff. He created those groups. I actually think he was pretty charismatic. But if he utilized it correctly, he would have gone far. So that's my take on it at the very least.
Yeah, I personally really liked Rich. I mean, like for me personally, like a reason why I don't like the new era American Survivor so much is because everyone's like a game bot and they're all trying to do the most super strategic, smart move every single tribal. But I like that Richie just didn't really care. You know what I mean? He's like, yeah, like I'm with the VB. It's like he outs his own alliance members. He's loud. He's bombastic. He went on that acid trip that one time, realizing that Logan's a manipulator. I personally just thought Rich was just so much fun throughout the season. He may not have been, I mean, he's nowhere near a good player, but it was just so much fun. How about you, Hamish? Any like final thoughts on Rich?
I think as a dude, he's the kind of guy that would never be my best friend, but I think I would get on with. Like if I was at an event and I had to socialize with strangers, he'd be easy enough to like kind of get into a conversation where I can just like put in little bits, but let him kind of lead it. And like he'd be funny enough. I'm sure I'd enjoy his company. As a player, I mean, he was fun for sure. Like he was fun to watch. Like obviously, like his like bomb squad. I think strategically speaking, he was pretty oblivious. Is the word I would use.
Yeah, and the next player to get eliminated was someone who we predicted to be the first boot. Actually, but it's Ursula. And, you know, I really felt for Ursula. You know, she was just always tied to Nash, really, from the get-go, and just couldn't really escape that. And I kind of felt like the rivalry between her and Noonan was more Noonan's fault more so than Ursula's fault. But I thought she was a fun character overall, Hamish. What's your thoughts on Ursula?
I think that how she played was how she would be in the same scenarios outside of Survivor. And so that's cool. You know, she stands up for herself. She has clear boundaries. She has self-respect. She isn't a dick, but she's also not afraid to be in conflict. Like, you know, like she's a respectable person. Like, I think that's cool. I think that I don't like her game because, like, bro, you're in Survivor. Somebody's mean to you, suck it up. Like, I'm sorry. It just kind of is what it like. The fact that you played that way is the reason you got voted out at the end of the day.
Yeah.
The fact that you're on the bottom is because you're like that. So if you want to play a game where you have to be conniving, be conniving. Stop being so straight up with people. That's the point of the game. That was my opinion on her.
How about you, Nathan? Any final remarks on Ursula?
I mean, everything that Hamish said is true. I genuinely, like, she's a genuine person, right?
Yeah.
She wears her heart on her sleeve. She rarely wore sleeves, but she does wear her heart on it. And when, like, things happen, she was very honest about it. And that's not really what you need in a game of Survivor. What you need is a little bit more tact. I think Ursula would have made a great ally. I think if anybody could have worked with her quite easily if they were just being honest with her about where they are. I think that's actually what probably drew her to Nash in particular. But it's just, it just wouldn't have worked. I can agree with that.
Yeah. And the final player was poor Max, Mad Max. You know, I thought he was going to go really, really far into this game. I'm so devastated to see him go. Have you got any last final thoughts on Max, Nathan?
I initially thought he was going to go pretty far as well. The more I watched, the more I felt like that was getting worse and worse. I think particularly after the two girls going on his massive blind side alliance advantage was just like, you know, come on, man. But like overall, did I like him as a player? Yeah, I did. I think he got harpooned pretty hard early game. Got a lot of advantages mid game. Used them all terribly. And you know, sometimes it happens that you lose in the worst possible. You losing an idol in your pocket because you think you're secure. But like honestly, I think he could have played a little bit better. I think that there was a lot of chances where that could have been avoided.
Yeah. How about you, Hamish? Any final remarks on Max?
With all due respect, my bro, I feel like he played how I would think you would play. That's your game, bro.
Yeah.
You know, like, he was funny to watch. He was chaotic. He just had fun. Like, he did things that probably weren't even necessarily the most strategic thing, but it was almost like for the bit. You know what I mean? Like, like the war against Miles. Like, it got to a point. It's like, you're just doing this for the meme, bro. Like, I don't even think you're that mad. You know what I mean?
I mean, it's the thing where it's like, you know, why are you targeting Miles? Oh, I think he's just, you know, talking too much, you know, strategy and stuff, kind of getting on my nerves. It's like, okay, why are you targeting Miles? He's a jungle rat. He finds a way to survive everything. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I think he definitely did play it.
He was definitely being funny. You know, he was a comedian at work. But yeah, I don't know. I think that in the beginning, like earlier on, I was like, yeah, this is funny. If he was more patient, I would have really liked him as a player. You know, like this kind of funny, like doing it for the bit, doing it for the meme. But if he just was less stubborn, man, like, yeah, bro, like still gun for Miles. Like have your thing. That's your thing. You can keep this, you know. But just like be smarter about it. Like I would have thought he's a mean player, bro.
To put it in perspective, Hamish isn't wrong that I would probably play like Miles, but I would probably do it a little bit more strategically in a way that's like screws over way more people. I wouldn't have targeted just Miles. I remember when me and Michael watched Squid Game: The Challenge, and there was this one moment where basically players could pick the kind of challenge that they wanted, and it was ranked in 4, and like the hardest challenge that the players could pick, they had to pick for a bunch of other people. Teams, the entire
it was
thing
the
split in
cookie
4.
one, right?
Yes, this was the cookie one,
Yeah.
right? And I actively told Michael, if I was in that situation, I would immediately run to the hardest challenge and make a quarter of the entire team, all of the quarter of all the players, play the worst possible, almost impossible scenario, and just be like, as they're coming in and being like, "Why'd you pick the hardest one?" I would just be like, "Oh, cry me a river." Oh, weird. Then I would mess up the challenge and get myself out. And then be like, "Bye, guys."
This is what I want to ask then. So, Nathan, if you're Miles and Michael, you're Max, who am I?
I think you're Kent.
Bro, actually the most. We're ranking vindictiveness. If I'm Miles, Michael is Max, you're Kent. Bro actively picked a fight with both of them.
Yo, wait, yeah.
But hey, man, I can totally see you. I love you to bits, but I can totally see you just being like, all right, that's enough socializing, strategizing for today. I'm just going to take a nap randomly in the middle of the
Yeah, no, to be fair,
like,
yeah, you're probably not wrong. I would definitely need to like go off into the water and just chill a few times. And then some idiot would come out and be like, "Hey, do you want to talk strategy?" And I'm like, "Go, leave me alone." And then I get off. That's how I go. I'm going to play the most strategic, silent, under the radar game for the first 13 days. And then I'm going to get socially burnt out and start being a prick. And then everyone's just going to be like, "Can we just get rid of this guy?"
Yeah. Gosh. We do have a comment here from Gabe. Welcome here, Gabe. You're an absolute legend, mate. The Purple Brawn actually got something. Oh, yeah, actually got screen time on the last episode this week. Yeah, I mean, let's quickly talk about some of the players we have left. So, someone who hasn't had a lot of screen time, but I'm very high up on, is Ben right here. He does seem like he's actually like the core center of the Brawn, I guess, alliance in the new Brain tribe, where it's definitely seems like him and Jesse are sort of the ones that are in control of everything. Have got like the best social game by far.
I guess you could say he's been overlooked.
He's been overlooked. But yeah, I mean, what's been some of your thoughts on these Brawn players we haven't seen much of, like Ben, Kate, Morgan, who we thought would have been a winner pick, but she's hardly gotten anything. Jesse, PD, Hamish, what's some of your thoughts on these?
You didn't even mention Kristen.
Sorry. Yeah, and I mean, I guess we'll talk about Kristen soon. I feel like she's got a little bit more content than some of these other players, but
there are definitely some of them. There are some players who I see in challenges, and I'm like, oh, like cool, like they're a player, and then I just kind of assume they're getting screen time, but it's probably just because they're in the challenge, and so kind of everyone's getting screen time. But in the episode of the Max boot, I noticed, for example, like Kate got like no screen time, and like even in the tribal, like she was like kind of like half cut out of the screen, and I was like, is that Kate? I can't tell, So I think there are I mean, hey, maybe I'm wrong, maybe she's gonna win, but there are people that I can kind of foresee not doing a whole lot, at least not just yet. Maybe they're soon to be voted out, not because they're a massive threat, but just because maybe after merge or something, they're just not going to be the strongest player. I don't know. So I think a few of them are like that, but also though, you see a lot of Jesse in this one, but maybe that's just because Max, the guy who got voted out, was working with him a lot, I don't know, man. There definitely are people that may have had a, less screen time than they deserve, for sure.
Yeah. Well, Nathan, someone who I'm actually really high on, who I have here that we have in the pre-merge tribe, or I guess section, is Logan. You know, I didn't even realize we'd put Logan in the pre-merge section, but I've been really thoroughly impressed. Like, it's Logan who really does also help blow up the Ursula versus Noonan rivalry, where it's Logan that tells Ursula, oh yeah, like Noonan was like rolling her eyes at you and stuff, and like she can sort of feel the tension. Like, the social game is something I love watching, and it's something that I feel like Australian Survivor really does portray the best, where you can just watch Logan play and you can see what she's kind of doing. You know what I mean? Like, she's forming the relationships and stuff like that. Yeah, no, you're exactly right here, Gabe. Logan being called the new Shawnee this season. I 100% agree. Her
Yeah,
social game
I'm with
very,
you.
very good.
That one for sure.
Yeah. What's been your thoughts on Logan so far, Nathan?
Yeah, I mean, genuinely pretty good player. I think, you know, in a game as chaotic as this one, where there's just a lot of moving parts, she's played each and every part very well.
Yeah.
She's utilized every single advantage she's been given. And she's been doing this without playing any idols, without receiving any clues, without you know, just seeing alliances, seeing them break, and picking the right ones. I think that that's a really good strategy. Like, I think the biggest thing that gave it away for me was just like how she viewed it's how she viewed Rick or Rich, which was basically, you know, like, I got to get him out of here because nobody else likes him either, right?
Yeah.
Basic, simple move, right? There was Laura not toying with the idea of keeping him around. There was no like additional like thought process about like, oh, what's the risk going to be post-merge, pre-merge. She thought about it. She knew what the stakes were. She saw what other people were saying. She did it. And it's
Yeah. And Hamish, I guess one final player who I would love to talk about is Queen Karen. You know, like, while Karen once again has received a lot of screen time this week, she is at the core center of this Brains Alliance. Like, AJ, like, he goes to her, you know, to discuss all of his plans and stuff like that. You know, she comes away scot clean after the trouble where Ali goes home, because since Karen doesn't have to make a vote, she doesn't get any of the backlash or anything for the Graduates Alliance. Like, I don't like obviously, you know, like, Karen is a queen because she's got the duck overalls. You know, we love that quackalicious energy. Like, I feel like she's in one of the best spots, like, in that tribe specifically moving forward.
I think she's really good in an alliance. She plays being in an alliance very well. And obviously, as the game progresses, the alliances get a lot smaller. I want to see more of how she will be playing on her own, kind of. Like, she's doing great, you know? I think she definitely is the kind of person who has a fierce and very heard voice. I think this is my stance, and people respect it and they hear it. Later on in the game, though, you know, you've got all these big players, and if your voice is voicing something that the others don't like, well, then you're a target. So I think that she's like a strong player who will become a target. I don't think she's going to win. I think she's definitely post-merge. I think she's going to go far. You know, I think, you know, kind of back on Logan, right? Like, Logan has been in a majority alliance. She's been in a majority alliance as it fractured and navigated the fracturing of that. She's been now on the bottom and survived. She's been seeing opportunities when people kind of on the outside of your minority kind of want to show you any kind of empathy, and then she's like all of a sudden very good social game with them. I feel like, as far as like the kind of old Witches Coven players go, I think Logan has had more opportunities to show us that she can navigate any kind of circumstance. I think Karen has done a very good job at always staying in some kind of majority, which is good. You know, that's very good playing. But yeah, I want to see how she'd play on the back foot. I think that she's post-merge for sure.
Yeah. And I guess just before we end this podcast, Nathan, is there any player who you want to specifically talk about? Someone who you think is doing really, really well? Someone who you think is going to win?
Yeah, I mean, I think Paulie's still up there. I think that he's kind of like shown to be just the most competent in terms of play, that he's actually threatening other people. But just going on Karen again, you know, I think what separates a person from a loud group of people, even though like Karen keeping her mouth shut, not telling secrets, that's a miracle. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like what separates her from being that kind of that kind of loud voice, because everybody. Yeah. Well, that too, but the main one is like she's full of heart. Like you don't see that. You're not seeing that a lot. Like I remember this isn't in these 7 episodes, but just like the previous 3 episodes, just that challenge where she was fighting Ursula on that push game. That was really impressive.
Here's a take. Karen is Ursula if people respected Ursula.
I guess she wasn't wearing her heart on her sleeve all of the time.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I can say that. I can see that. It's just very heartfelt. I think as a person going forward. So I think she's moved up quite a lot towards Soul Survivor ranking as well. Too.
I mean, we do have a comment here from Gabe saying, I think most of the Brawn you can count out as the winner now. I mean, I don't know. It's like, I feel like there's some players like Jesse and Ben, for example, and PD, and I guess like Morgan and Kate now and Grissom, where it's like, I don't see them winning because we haven't gotten a lot from them. But also at the same time, like,
Uh-oh.
hello? Is everyone there?
Yeah, no.
Yeah, okay, awesome. Sorry. Like, literally everything froze to me. I was like, oh, but anyways, yeah, so anyways, what I was trying to say is that like Christy won the first season, she who literally came out of nowhere, right? And so like for me personally with Australian Survivor, anything can still happen. I do think there are players more likely to win over majority of the Brawn members. I'd say that the 5 Brawn on the new Brain Tribe are probably the bottom 5 people who are likely to win just from an editor perspective at this point. But I'm not going to rule them out because who knows? Maybe, Kristen will come into the merge or Kate will come into the merge and they end up being a strategic mastermind that runs the whole game. Like even in season 3 with Benji, he had no screen time in the first 2 weeks of the show. Then he came out and he was like one of the biggest characters of the season and one of the most likely winner candidates as well. So who knows what could happen. But how about you, Hamish? Any final players?
I was going to say I would be interested to know the final 4 for both of you. My current, and I say final 4 because I can't pick 3. My final 4 at the moment still involves Miles, despite everything. Like he's not playing an amazing game, but he's playing amazingly at scurrying along the bottom, and I can see it. I can back the jungle rat. I think Laura is up there. This would for you be a hot take because I know that you're kind of like less on her side, but I reckon she's playing better than you give her credit for. Logan, I also think is up there, and the last one is Paulie. My top 4 would be Miles, Logan, Laura, Paulie. How about you guys?
Well, I mean, just my thing on Laura, like I like Laura, I really do, but I do think that she sacrificed the Witch's Coven for Rich, right? For 3 votes. They were wanting Rich. She could say, no, you're being too emotional, you got to compromise. But I think, like Karen and everyone was in the right for wanting to get rid of Rich by this point. They had compromised. They compromised for Indy, even though Indy was actively targeting them. They compromised for Kent, and now it's like they really want Rich. But Laura was so adamant on not taking Rich out that that's how the Graduate started to form, right? Was because of this fracture that's happening with the Witch's Coven, which it wasn't like Laura went out and made a new majority. It was like Karen and Zara left to make this new majority. Right. And so that's just my personal perspective on it. On like in terms of Laura and her gameplay. But I do hope Laura makes it really far. I feel like she's definitely a very interesting character this season. Yeah, we do have a comment here, a couple comments here from Gabe. Hang on, not all 5 of them are getting the Benji either. Who knows, man? Who knows? Miles has become the lovable underdog. You want to cheer for Miles to survive. Absolutely. Like Miles is the world's hero at this point, since none of us are in Australia. Laura burned her connections with the Brains woman. I don't feel like she's totally scorched them. Like, she's still working with Zara and everyone right now, but I don't
What
think...
about Logan?
I feel like Laura... I mean, it's interesting, right? Because
Laura
Zara...
and Logan's relationship.
I feel like they're both still definitely very tight, the two of them. I think it's good that they've both separated, though, and that Logan's got Karen and Laura has got Zara, so then they can like rebuild up those relationships, which we do see that Karen and Logan are working really closely together. Laura and Zara are now starting to work really closely together as well. I do think if the swap hadn't happened and there was to be another tribal, I do think Laura might have been in a wee bit of trouble. Like if they wanted to keep Max around for tribe strength or something like that. Yeah, we see Gabe here. Karen and Zara are ditching her. Loki might try and help her. I don't know. I feel like when merge comes around, they're going to get back together and work together. But I definitely do think Laura would have been in a lot of trouble if Brains to go back to tribal. In terms of my top 4, though, I also have to go with Queen Karen. I'm going to go with Icon Paulie. I'm going to go with Logan as well, because now that we chat more and more about Logan, the more I'm like, she's actually playing a very, very good game. And I'm going to go with AJ. I feel like AJ's been set up to be like the easy merge vote because everyone's going to be onto him, but he does have the idol. I feel like he's smart enough to be aware that he's made a lot of public enemies by doing this move. And sometimes what we've definitely seen from the season, all it takes is to just survive one vote and things are completely different within 24 hours, right? So, yeah, I can definitely see a way where AJ... I don't think AJ's going to win with the game he's playing at the moment, but I reckon he's going to make it very far. Sort of similar to where the Henry and David boot happened around like the final 10, final 9-ish. I can see him lasting through to there, but... yeah, I'll say that's my top 4 players at the moment. How about you, Nathan? Who's your top 4?
I've been Paulie number 1. I think that he's got the good mix of everything that you need from a good Soul Survivor. He likable, strategic, athletic, and just overall good story. 2, I think probably Miles. Simply because. Yeah, I'll agree on Gabe. I like cheering him. I think it's an underdog story of underdog stories in Survivor. He's been constantly at the bottom and has been clawing his way through. I think that's been pretty impressive. From that point on, it really is anybody's game, I think. But Karen has been playing the best, I think, in terms of just I think even better than Logan. Just from from both a strategic perspective, which has been pretty even, but then also from a athletic and gameplay perspective, she's been doing pretty good as well.
Yeah.
She's been a very good team contributor. Finally, from there, I'm thinking probably, you know what? I'll say Morgan probably. Okay. I still think, like, as you get closer to the merge, or particularly the merge, athleticism becomes huge. And particularly playing the game and winning challenges becomes massive, right? I think Morgan out of everybody has been the most athletic one, the most impressive one. I do think there are others out there that are quote unquote better, but I think that she's gotten a pretty good grasp of the game by now.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe her too.
Yeah.
So
and just some quick final comments here as well. I knew Mucky would would love AJ. I do, man. I love players who swing really, really massive. AJ being set up as our villain, the cast will not vote for him even if he reaches the end. I can see that happening. Karen is hiding better than Logan. You got to vote out the athletic woman of Australian Survivor Source. Yeah, absolutely.
Of course.
Vote them out. Vote them out pre-merge.
Get him out of this island.
But unfortunately, that does bring us to the end of our podcast. I'm Hamish. Some would say the Stag Zero is a musician. Would you like to plug where people could find?
Oh wow, such a crazy moment. Yeah, if you like listening to music that's too emotional, if you're too sad or too in love or just an emotional beanbag, listen to Stag Zero. It's spelt like this. It's on Spotify, Instagram, wherever you want to look. Stag Zero. All right, there you go.
Awesome.
This guy.
And have you got any gigs coming up or anything?
I do. This Saturday, I have one. All the details will be on Instagram, so you can just look at it there. Otherwise, you'll forget it if I tell you all the details now. This Saturday, the following Saturday, and then not until May. But I won't tell you the May gigs yet because they're not yet announced.
Ooh, how exciting. How about you, Nathan? Anything you want to plug or advertise at the moment?
Yeah, you can just follow me on my Instagram, I guess, at GMV101. But other than that, not really. I'm a pretty private guy who does a podcast for Australian Survivor, one of the biggest TV shows this side of Oceania. But I'll definitely have more to plug later. But you can just follow me on my Instagram at the Gaming Doctor 101 and just check out some memes there. And otherwise, hope you enjoyed watching.
Yeah, and
I did.
I did not enjoy having you on the podcast either, Hamish. But if you are new to the channel, smash the subscribe button. It's got a winky face because we are very cheeky, very naughty here on this podcast. So if you're up to a cheeky, naughty time, make sure.
If you want to subscribe to Michael's cheeky, naughty time exclusively with Mucky Hope, click the subscribe button now for exclusive, cheeky, and naughty content.
Guys, I don't think this was the right website for that.
Oh gosh, I really cocked it up with that one.
Orange and black.
Naughty times.
Naughty times. Oh my gosh. But yeah, smash the subscribe. Sorry, I'm stuttering now. Please smash that subscribe button. And also follow us on our Instagram at Mucky Hope Productions with the cheeky _. I'm posting memes about the season as I watch through them. And it's a great season, great memes. We're currently rivaling Australian Survivor memes by 53 subscribers to over 20,000. So, we're getting... so we're slow.
Underdog story, here we go.
Exactly. Mucky mucked it up. Absolutely. But until next time, everyone, I will be here on Sunday to talk about the finale of Traders USA with Sam Smith, Michelle, and V and Drew, the normal Traders crew. And also V and Drew are going to be doing American Survivor chats as well about all the individual episodes, and also with all the season 50 voting that's going on as well. If you're American, make sure you make season 50 a great one. No fire making. I think that one's already been voted for. But yeah, just make the season great. Just do it for me. Just do it for all the Survivor fans. Make the season great. Absolutely. Until next time. Mitska. All right. Until then, kakite anō, everyone, and we'll catch you all in the next one. Have a good one, everyone. Bye.
Peace.
Peace.